Hey everybody, Jess Intuitive Angel Healer here with your Grounded. Thank you so much for joining my first 2021 Love and Light Women's Empowerment Conference. I'm so excited. I grabbed up 7 of my friends that were around and I was like, hey, I want, March is Women's Empowerment Month. And what better way to celebrate it, considering I am a holistic healer. I work with women over 34 to heal, and I'm a toxic relationship expert. So I was like, you got to leave your legacy somewhere. And if anybody knows me personally on a personal level, I am not good at getting stuff together for a one-day event. So very rarely will you see me do the hustle and bustle for the holiday sales. I can't make it. I don't know why. But this one, I was like, my spirit team really wanted me to put this on because women's empowerment came up, and then all of a sudden I found myself watching a documentary on the fast food nation of how food in the world was created. And then all of a sudden I got to Marjorie Post, and that's who I'm going to be chatting about tomorrow as my empowered woman. But I decided, hey, why not get everybody up here and talk about some empowered women from the past, because unfortunately a lot of us don't know our past, and if you don't know your past, you're doomed to repeat it. And also there's a lot of just badass women out there that have paved the way for us that most of us, unless society has put them up on their little pedestal, we don't know about them. And like Marjorie Post, who knew that she was the first millionaire woman, and she wasn't a snob, even though she had $1 million. That lady gave her heart out for what she could. So I am so excited. I got everyone up here to kind of give their presentation about who their empowered female is and hero, and and kind of share a little bit about their journey and how they coincide. And so today we have Genesis Amaris Kemp to kick it off. And she is, if you look, the published author of the book Chocolate Drop in Corporate America, From Palace to the Pit. And she's an amazing author, advocate, and she does so many things. She's also a motivational speaker, and I just love her. And she's going to talk about Harriet Tubman today, and a little bit about her journey and how they both coincide. So thank you so much for being here today, Genesis. Okay, Genesis, it is your stage, and we'll go ahead and hand it over to you. And if you can just give us a little bit of who you are, your background, and what you're going to share with us today.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. As just mentioned, my name is Genesis Amaris Kemp. I am the author of Chocolate Drop in Corporate America, From the Pit to the Palace. The first edition came out last year, and the second edition came out this year in February 2021. The book just walks you through various trials and tribulations that I endured while working for a Fortune 500 oil and gas company in Texas. I have 15 years of experience in corporate America. Out of those 15 years, 11 and a half of those years were spent in the oil and gas and energy sector. And out of the 11 and a half, I spent 7.5 of those years working for a Fortune 500 oil and gas company where I was climbing the corporate ladder. But then I hit that glass ceiling. I also hit that point in my life where I said, enough was enough. I was tired of seeing the systemic racism. I was tired of, seeing women who are a minority in a male dominated field just get pushed to the side, or they expect you to just sit there and look pretty and not really say anything. So I was like, we definitely have to do more in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. So all of my experiences and life challenges allowed me to pen and write my first book, Chocolate Drop in Corporate America. I also speak on various platforms as a motivational speaker where I talk about identifying your purpose versus your passion, being authentically you, embracing the challenges that come in your life and pivoting off of them, taking those challenges and look for ways to make them your pedestal and your stepping stone so you could flip that negative into a positive and set up yourself for a better and bigger and brighter future by just changing your mindset and your perspective. Because so many times we all have been there where we have stinking thinking, or we have thoughts that we're not good enough, or just life happens and you just kind of feel crummy. So I'm all about empowerment, inspiration, motivation, and I tell people it's not just about Genesis, because I am an imperfect person trying to become a better version of myself daily. So I just want you all to engage in this conversation as I begin my presentation. Feel free to ask me any questions and let's rock it out. As just mentioned, I will be talking about Harriet Tubman and why she is one of my sheroes, and how I could resonate with her tenacity and just her drive and willingness, not just to, pave the way for future generations, but also to challenge people. So here we go. And it's starting. Okay, so the first slide here, I want everyone to kind of take a minute or two and see how the idea slide speaks to you, and put it in your comments. What are the top 3 things that stand out to you? So I definitely want the engagement from Carrie Lee, John, Patty, and who else do we have? Dina, because this is going to be interactive. So.
Uh-oh, you guys didn't even know.
Surprise! Okay. So let's see. Has it been a minute? I guess I'll start seeing things as they pop up in the chat. So yes. The exercise here is to put in the chat the top 3 things that speak out to you whenever you look at this visual representation with the light bulb, or as I call it, the idea bulb. Okay, so we're gonna keep going. Let's scroll down.
Okay.
The chats will come in later. So my empowered woman was Harriet Tubman, and the reason why I chose Harriet Tubman is because I really liked that she was resilient. I liked the fact that she was a woman back in time that saw a need, and she saw a need and she tapped into it. But she also was selfless, because once she got free, she reached her hand out to help other people, and whether they were part of her family or not. So whenever we think about women empowering women, we have to realize that we didn't get to where we are today by ourselves. So it's so important that we take time to empower one another and help each other. So if you see a fellow woman that's in your circle or outside of your circle that's doing incredible things, let them know, hey, you're rocking out in your space, or you're doing a great job, or look for ways to, build a partnership with that person and do it genuinely. So some fun facts. Ooh.
Sorry about that.
No worries, Jess. It's all good. Okay. So some fun facts about Harriet Tubman. She was born Araminta Minty Ross in Maryland around 1822. Harriet adopted her mother's name after escaping slavery. So once she escaped slavery, she wanted to rebrand herself, and so she dubbed her name Harriet. They also called her Moses, and Moses of her people. And also she was illiterate her entire time. So can you imagine someone who was illiterate that defied the odds? She broke barriers, and she says, I'm not going to let me being illiterate stop me from doing the things that I want to do or helping others. So I just want to encourage you all that are listening today, no matter what limitations or barriers that you have in your life currently, they're just temporary and they do not define you. So look past those limitations and those barriers. If you want to be an author, start writing your book. Even if you don't have a laptop, you could write your book on your cell phone or whatever the case may be. But don't let limiting thoughts, limiting behaviors, or people who are in your circle limit you from the places you can go. She never lost a slave, so that means she was very successful, even though it was hard and it was a risk because when she was leaving her masters, they could have been shot. Anything could have happened, but she just had that bravery. She was bold, she was courageous, and she didn't let that stop her because she's like, it's not just about Harriet. I'm trying to get everyone free. She was a Union scout during the Civil War, and she also served as a nurse, a cook, a spy to the federal troops. So sit back and ask yourself, wow, an illiterate person who couldn't read or write did all these amazing things. So it just goes to show you she defied her odds. She overcame her limitations and she broke down barriers and she was helping other people no matter what. So, wow, she was a rock star to me. So the topic is empowerment. That's something that Jess resonated with. So you see in this picture, it says, we are stronger together. We are a pipeline, women. We have so many incredible gifts, talents, goals, and visions. All we need to do is link hands with one another, or hey, we're in COVID, so you could just link hands out in the open, like imaginary. But the message behind this picture is when we come together and we look for ways to complement one another instead of being in competition with each other, then we as a whole are stronger together because we're partnering our assets. And John, I don't want to leave you out. The same goes for men too. Look for ways to, support another man in your area, John. And if you see that he's doing something good, congratulate him. If you see that he's doing something that you want to learn, ask him to be a mentor to you. And that's how we begin to build network connections. And a network connection should be mutually beneficial, where we're both getting something out of it and we're not in it in the mindset of what's in it for me. Like we should be what's in it for we. Because whenever you take the I out of it and you look at we, then you can see how we're bridging the gap and we're closing the holes because it takes all of us coming together to really, thrive and help one another. And give me a thumbs up if this is resonating with you all. Next one, please, Jesse.
Okay.
Okay, what change made an impact? Think about that. Each one of you on this Zoom call, there was something in your life that led you to making a change in your current situation. Think about it and put it in the comment. So, what change made an impact? Did you step outside of your comfort zone? Did you take a leap of faith? Did you challenge yourself to do something you never thought you could have? Think about it. So, she helped others gain their freedom as conductor of the Underground Railroad. She was the first African American woman to serve in the military. She's already breaking odds. One, she's an African American woman. She escaped slavery and she was the first person to serve in military. If that's not ballsy, I don't know what is. uh,
Exactly.
Tubman raised funds to aid freedmen. She joined Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony in their quest for women's suffrage. So, shout out to all those incredible ladies who were a part of women's suffrage to help us, the future women today and future generations to come. Sometimes it just takes you to be that risk taker in order for others to follow suit. And once that suit begins to follow, you see the domino effect. And her drive and desire for justice is a change that made an impact in me and I'm sure other ladies around the world. How I was inspired. Despite various challenges, Harriet still had the drive to help others. And how that correlated to me is even though I faced certain trials and tribulations working for a Fortune 500 company, I said, these things aren't just happening to me, but they're happening for me to influence others, for me to be the change that I want to see, for me to launch out deep into the uncharted territories and the waters of unknown, because I know there's going to be other people out there who need to hear what I have to say, who need some encouragement, who need some insight. And so I was like, yes, these incidents suck when life happens to us. They're not fair. You feel like, oh my gosh, it's just like crap. Or and then you feel like that churning in your stomach where you're just so upset sometimes that you may just feel like punching someone, but then you have to take a step back and you're like, you know what, I'm a queen, I'm a daughter of Christ. This is not how Christ would react. So then you think of ways to channel your energy into something positive, and that positivity may be empowerment. It may be you scaling back a little bit in order for you to just take a pause so you could reformulate your plan, so you could begin to get back on that horse and saddle up. um, she didn't allow her illiteracy to keep her from performing. So, as I said, Harriet, she had a challenge, she had a roadblock, but she looked beyond that roadblock. So, where are you in your life currently? And are you facing a challenge that you need to pump your brakes and look beyond? Look further down the road. Is there a sign that says left lane closed, right lane closed? Are you thinking ahead before you get to that sign? Do you see something at work that is not right and you're like, okay, let me think of a way where I could divert, or there's a way that I could go around this situation so it's going to help me, help my team, and then change the narrative. Think about it. We all have various challenges that we're going through. Be sure to interact and drop it in the comments so that way I could have that dialogue with you all. She broke barriers and made a way for other women and men. She was always lending a hand to bring someone else along. Challenge the status quo. So, Carly Lee, John, Patty, Dina, have you recently lent a hand to a woman or a man in your circle that you knew was killing it in their respective areas so you could help them? And whether you lend a hand by introducing someone to another person, whether it was on Facebook Messenger, LinkedIn, someone you met in public, have you been that person to say, hey, I think you would be really good in this area, and I have someone in my network that I would love for you to meet, and I think y'all could really collaborate and turn this ordinary experience into something extraordinary? Have you lend a hand by passing someone on the road that may be homeless and they just may need $1 or something to eat? That's a way of lending a hand. Have you served in your community, whether it was through a virtual experience or whether it was through a face-to-face experience? There are various ways that we can lend a hand to someone in need without expecting anything in return. Because if you think about it this way, the seeds that you plant today are going to reap a harvest later on in life. Next one, please, Jessie. Okay, my advice. My foundational quote for my presentation today is a quote by Babe Ruth, which says, never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. When I think about fear, I think about false evidence appearing real. Fear is a mindset that gets you conditioned to the point where you're afraid to step out of the familiar because you're like, I don't know what's out there. What about if I do this? What about if this happens? Oh, what about if I fail? But what about if you don't fail? What about if you exceed? What about if you meet that divine connection that helps you secure your business and pave the way? What if you did it afraid and you killed it in your area? What if you did it without knowing what was all involved, but then little drops of wisdom nuggets came along the way? Blessings kept coming. Then you see an overflow and you see people gravitating to you. And that lets you know, hey, I was afraid. I didn't think I was going to be able to be successful. But had I not done it, I wouldn't have reaped my harvest. Don't settle for no's, y'all. Whenever I hear no, I think about next opportunity or new opening. Do you know how many times I was turned down for jobs before I landed up working for a Fortune 500 company? more than 300 times. And yes, it was discouraging, and it's human nature for us to get discouraged. But I was like, you know what? If one door closes, that just means something bigger and better is in store for me. It just means that that opportunity wasn't for me. And it just means that, not right now. Something else may come along. Maybe you get a no from an employer who you really wanted to work at that company. But if you get that no, maybe it's time for you to look into starting your own business. What skills and talents do you have that you can monetize to be that world changer that you inspire and aspire to be? We all can have a seat at the table and eat. Don't ever think that, hey, if I help this person, they're going to steal my spotlight. They're going to take off of my table. They're going to eat and I'm not going to be able. Think about it. We live in a society where there are vast opportunities. So don't ever let that stinking thinking limit you from helping yourself or someone else. We all have a place at the table to eat. And if you think about it, remember the story of 5 loaves and 2 breads and how it was multiplied? And from a little boy's lunch, he only had five, no, sorry, I'm saying it wrong. He only had 5 loaves and 2 fish. But if you look at the multiplication factor, he had faith. And once they applied that faith, it filled a multitude of men and women. So you never know how something small as 5 loaves and 2 fish could be multiplied in the supernatural. And stop trying to be in competition and look for ways to complement. Next slide, please, Jess. Okay, now the name of my book, once again, is Chocolate Drop in Corporate America, From the Pit to the Palace. So this is what my book looks like. And then on the cover of my book, you'll see that there's people from all ethnicities as well as all professional backgrounds to let each one of you know that inclusion, diversity, and equity starts with all of us coming together. And no matter what industry you're in, we have all faced challenges in the workplace that left us encountered, and you felt like as maybe you were mistreated, or maybe others who were unqualified seemingly passed you by in the ranks. And you're like, what's wrong with me? Was I not good enough? Well, maybe it just wasn't your time because something better was brewing for you. And then the title of the book, even though it may be controversial, it says Chocolate Drop in Corporate America. And the reason why I came up with Chocolate Drop in Corporate America is because I was embracing the melon of my skin, even though I'm from a culturally diverse background. I'm first generation American. My dad was from South America and my mom is Caribbean. I said, you know what? I got so tired of people saying, oh, you're just that black girl or you're African American. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to say chocolate drop, because when you think about chocolate, it comes in all flavors: white chocolate, milk chocolate, dark chocolate. It's sweet, it's crunchy, it's milky, and you just can't have one bite. At least I can't. So I was like, I'm going to put a fun spin on it. And then I said in corporate America, because at the time I wrote my book, I was in corporate America. So I was like, I'm that chocolate drop in corporate America. And then from the pit to the palace, that represents that sometimes we go through dark seasons in our life, seasons of maybe depression, anxiety, seasons of guilt, remorse. But once we get out of that season, we appreciate the light at the end of the tunnel. And that light could be our palace. And the palace for each one of us on this call may look different, because success for each one of this call is different. Some people deem success as by having a lot of money. Some deem success by having that mansion, driving that Maserati, driving that Rolls Royce, that Bentley or Tesla. Some people say, hey, I'm living success just driving, my Altima or my RAV4 or my 4Runner, but I have the nice house over there. And success, even though some people deem it by money, not everyone does. There are people out there who have all the money in the world, but yet they're still unhappy. And there's people who don't have all the money in the world, like people who are in third world countries, people who are overseas. They don't have a lot of money, but if you meet them and you really go out into the towns, they are so happy and they really appreciate what they have. So you could see from the left side all the way to the right side is there's various forms of success. So never look at someone else's success and try to adopt that success into your world, because when you try to accomplish something that somebody else has and you try to walk into their gifts and talents, when you can't achieve it, you're going to feel sad. But that's because you don't know their gifts, their visions, and their talents. And each one of us is created for a purpose. So never try to operate someone else's purpose when you have your own purpose to walk into.
I love it. I love it every time I have you on anything that I interview with, because one thing I especially like is that you're so open-minded with your mission of what you're doing out here. And it's not just focused on one gender, one ethnicity, one particular issue. It is generally your mission is to help those without a voice. And if they can't voice it, you can help fill it in. And I think your book makes a really huge impact to everybody, because I understand, even though I'm obviously not, black myself, I'm not a black woman, but I understand that employers are wrong out there. And I've been behind the sidelines when I've overheard people how they pick employees, and your name, that's ridiculous. Like, that shouldn't even, your age, if you're a 60-year-old woman, good luck. My mom got her bachelor's, and she got laid off from United Healthcare a couple years ago because they took the contract out of Albuquerque. And she experiences that same kind of thing with her ageism, you know because they're like, oh, we don't want to hire you, you're an old lady. And she's like, geez, I'm not that old, and I have all this that I want to do. But I really love it that you come out here and share a purpose to help people, because it's the silliest thing. We need jobs, and we need to stop having groups of people that it's like the boys club or the girls club, and you have to be a part of it. Because I've worked in some of those places, and it drives me crazy that I'm never the popular one, because I never just hang out with one group. I'm an angel intuitive. I'm supposed to be around everyone, and I never get the popular groups, and those are always the one that seem to make it up. And I really don't think that's fair either. So I really like that. I love your presentation. And I think you picked an amazing woman, because people, when they think of Harriet Tubman, a lot of times they just think of, the obvious things, but they don't go into the story of what was it like. We hear all these facts about women, but could you imagine being Harriet Tubman at that moment and doing the things that she was doing? That took a lot of cojones to even
Yeah.
come up with the idea, but then she actually followed through with it. What are your thoughts on that?
So whenever, like, if I were to put myself back into her time and so, I would be so scared, because here you are going after, the people that quote unquote bought you, but you were never theirs to buy because they didn't birth you. But here you are trying to create a better life for yourself, your family, and let other people know. So whenever I think about it, the first thing that comes into your mind is fear, because that's a knee-jerk reaction, and we're humans, and it's part of our DNA. But then you have to like shift from that fear to like, hey, saying, instead of saying impossible, Audrey Hepburn said the word impossible says I'm possible. So then I just shift my mindset, and then I'm like, okay, that's what Harriet did. Because first she probably had fear, like, okay, what about if it doesn't work? What about if we get caught? What about, if we get killed? But then she shifted it and like, what about if we don't? So then here in present day, I'm shifting it and saying, well, the word impossible says I'm possible inside of the word. So let me just shift the trajectory and shift my mindset and perspective. And then you see how, okay, sometimes you have a thought, but what good is having a thought if you don't put actions behind that thought, and you don't take that idea that we saw in the beginning of the presentation, the idea bulb,
Mhm.
and write down those things. And when you start to write things down, you start to um, believe them. And once you start to believe them, you start to manifest them. And writing things down is a way of holding yourself accountable, because if you start to see things, then you can visualize it. And once you start to visualize it, then you can start to attain it. Is that making sense?
Yes, that is so totally true, because that's what I always tell people. If you can have dreams, but if you don't put any action towards your dreams, they become just dreams. And we all know where dreams go. They go in the trash at some point if you don't do anything with them, because they're like thoughts. You have a million thoughts a day, but if you don't act on them, those thoughts just pass through your mind and you go on to the next one. And it is so important also, touching on your presentation, it is so important for us to stop looking at Susie Q and thinking, man, I want her success. Why can't I have my success? I'm doing all this, and I know we're all guilty of it. And
Mhm.
I found my angels helped me with this one day, because I have always been like, there's enough. I've been in sales for over 10 years, direct door-to-door sales, and my brain knows that for every no, for every three no's, there's a yes. But most of the time you don't get it after the third one, because your brain after the first or second one becomes, your ego becomes so irritated and angry that you don't even because I went door to door, and usually if I kept a good attitude, no, all right, keep going, no, keep going, yes, oh, you're going to buy everything, all right, well, here you go. But if I trained so many people going door to door, and that was my number one thing, you can't let these people affect you. You got to let people have their own space. And if they're being a jerk, and in life, if they're less than anything nice to you, got to go by the four agreements. Don't take anything personal. And know that this is what helps me. Whatever people act up and they come in my realm, I figure that they are just now projecting their own reality of what they're living in on me. So if you have someone who just shows up in your life and you're like, holy cow, what is your problem, man? Like, you're just such a unhappy person. I'd hate to see your daily life, because it is so true. If you have a bad attitude and you judge people and you are critical, 9 times out of 10, that's how you're living your life. So always invest into you. You can never go wrong if you invest into you, and stop comparing your dream and your life to other people's, because guess what? There's some things that they're committed to doing that you're not committed to doing. So for example, if me and you were putting our lives together, right? If you look at Genesis, you will see her on 95,000 podcasts, because that's what you do, right? And you're getting out there and you're like, this is my story and that's what I do. But when you look at me, I host the podcast because I haven't got that oomph to go out there. And I give you a lot of credit for wanting to talk to all these people, because I have a hard time, and I admit to people there's some things I can do, some things that I've got to work on. And when I go out and talk to people, it's not the easiest thing for me to go and just talk to any podcaster. It has to be the right environment, and I'm one of the picky guests. So I just saying, but I would never be upset on Genesis. I'm like, go girl. I'm happy every time I see a new podcast interview, because she's hungry. She wants to get it. You wrote a book, not just to, hey, I wrote a book and I'm gonna put it on my bookshelf and got my points. You're like, I'm gonna write a book and I'm gonna change lives. And that's why you're a part of this conference. And I just love your message. And if I could give you a hug, I would, because you're my girl and I love everything that you're doing. And I wish you a lot of success. Do you guys have any questions that you would like to ask Genesis before we wrap this up? And if you'd like to give us some uh, closing thoughts on anything,
Yes.
or where we can reach you at as well.
Sure. So I would definitely tell everyone on this call, if you know Jessie, you know, she is a beast when it comes to Canva. And I'm like, when I see her flyers, I'm like, did you make that in Canva? Because that is awesome. And so she will like give herself a pat on the back, but she's very creative when it comes to flyers, promotions, and all of that stuff. So if you ever need a flyer or something, go to Jessie because she's really good. Even though she's afraid to get on camera and be on the other side of the podcasting.
I'm working on it.
We have other gifts and talents out there that are like amazing. For those of you interested in connecting with me more, I'm on Facebook as Genesis, that's Genesis, Amaris, Amaris, Kemp, Kemp. I'm on Instagram, also known as IG, as Genesis Amaris Kemp. If you just want to talk with me one-on-one, or you want to shoot me a note or some feedback, whether it's good feedback or constructive criticism, you can email me at genesisamarisKemp@gmail.com. And feedback is a gift. You take whatever applies to you and you learn and grow from it. Whatever is constructive criticism, analyze it, see what they're saying. Is it true? And if it is true, see how you could become better, and thank the person that they cared enough to give you that feedback, because that's the only way that we're going to grow. And don't always wear your heart on your sleeve. Yes, some stuff may hurt, but if it doesn't hurt, it doesn't make you stronger, is what I say. Because every time I have went through a trial and tribulation that just hurt, and I'm like, why God? I had to learn, like, why not God? Like, you know, even though I went through the breakthrough, it did not break me, and I made it through. A quote that I'm going to leave you all with from my book is, there's going to be two quotes. So stop wasting your valuable time with people who will never appreciate what you bring to the table or have to offer. It's 2021. It's time for us to do some inventory in our lives, mentally, physically, and emotionally. If you're hanging around people who aren't optimistic, people who are just there to just take, but not give back to you, then it's time to evaluate your circle and just realize that, you know, not everyone is going to be with you for a lifelong journey. Some people are seasonal people, which means that they come into your life to drop wisdom nuggets or to just be there for a moment in time. But just know that your lifelong people are those A1s from day ones, the people who will fight for you when you're not around to fight for yourself, the people who would speak your name in rooms that you may never had the chance to walk into, and the people who will call you out on your BS whenever you're wrong, because they want you to know that you're wrong. And they're not always those people who are going to be that yes man or that yes woman. You need to have people in your circle who can see you and love you through it all. The next quote from the book is, okay, this is the last one since we're talking about empowerment. If you have a dream and vision to achieve something, then you have the power. I'm going to say that again. You have the power to do it. Keep the determination and continue to run your race. Emphasis on your race. You may fall or even fail, but that doesn't mean you can't achieve greatness. Get back up and press forward. And I just want to say the world needs you. The world needs all of us. And each one of you on this call today, I want to thank you for allocating some of your time to listen to my message. And I want to let each one of you know that you are a rock star. You're here for a purpose. And don't let your dreams, goals, and visions end up in the graveyard because you were too afraid to ignite them while you were living. And there's so many people who were afraid to do what they wanted to do out of fear. And now you see those dreams in the graveyard when you see all those markers, tombstones, benches. Some of those people, you know, they never tapped into their wildest dreams because they let other people define them. They let their stinking thinking control them. And they just made excuses, and I don't want you all to make excuses. I want you to bloom where you were planning, and I want you to rise up to heights and levels you would never imagine or dreamed of. Each one of you, Carrie Lee, John, Patty, Dina, you're all amazing people. And I just want to let you know that if no one has told you that today. So hope you all have a marvelous, magnificent, motivational Monday. And thank you so much for commenting. I see Dina said the light, whenever she first saw the first slide, she thought of chaos. Patty said she thought of inspiration, business, and commitment. And then Dina commented, yes, I guess, to one of the questions. And Patty says, you cool.
Thank you guys so much for coming. Anybody wish to unmute and say anything? I appreciate all of you because I know you all are super busy right now, and it means the world for you to come out and support my first empowerment conference. I hope to see you guys later. Patty's going to be telling us all about her empowered woman and reading a poem.
You guys can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Who is your person?
Well, hello, everybody. I'm Patty Holmes. I just want to say Genesis is amazing, the information you give. And March is the month of the females. We celebrate, the females in the past. They help us to get here to what we're doing today is empower other females. And I'm being giving a conference this month, and one of the words that I learned from other people that they talking, they say sorority. Sorority is just specific for females. So I think this is being here. I'm being sorority to Genesis and to Jess, and I hope Jess and Genesis can be, well, Jess is going to be, but Friday, no, Thursday, I'm sorry, I'm going to be here speaking about Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, which is the first female in Mexico. And Mexican, if you hear my accent. And she was the first female, and empowered other females. So thank you so much, Genesis. All the information was great, fantastic. I love it. Thank you, Jess, for doing this, and see you tomorrow if I can.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Patty. What part of Mexico are you from? My mother-in-law is from Guadalajara.
Oh, cool. I'm specifically for Veracruz, which is the coast. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I may have to chat with you offline.
Yes, I'm from the coast, so yes. Just have all my info so she can share with you, or whatever, we can get in touch. Absolutely. You can practice your Spanish with me.
Yes, I need to practice it some more. That's one thing I regret. My dad was fluent because he was from Curacao, right off the tip of Venezuela. So
wow.
I wish I would have, practice it more, because whenever you don't use it, you lose it. But the good thing is I could order my food when I go to a Mexican restaurant. I could say what I want, like yo quiero arroz con frijoles, frijoles a la chara, a mole.
Oh, wow, you speak more than my husband.
Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to let you guys have the rest of your day until 3 p.m. then you gotta come back. 3 p.m. Central. But thank you guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, Jess.